You're watching The Ready Writer, a show where I get to speak to writers of all different genres, mediums, and experiences. The Ready Writer. Are you ready? Welcome to another episode of The Ready Writer. I am your host, and today's writing guest is Michael Levitt. Let's get this show started. So before we get to your book, was writing ever in your, like as a child, did you write? Did you want to be an author, or was this something that kind of just happened?
I had a writing reward from my elementary school. I think I was in third grade, and I got an award for writing a paper. Now, of course, in third grade, you're not going to be the best author in the world. But yeah, I started writing at a very early age. I was able to read at a very early age as well. So I always loved print and loved reading. And writing, I never necessarily thought that I would write a book. In the back of my mind, I thought maybe, but I really didn't have anything that I thought would be meaningful to write about until, of course, my year of worst case scenarios with all the health and challenges that I had from my personal burnout. I think that made a big difference. And I thought, okay, I need to write about this story to share it with people, to let them know that, one, if you're going through these types of challenges, you can get through them. And also a warning for people on what they can do to avoid going through a situation like that. So I've loved, the art of writing for decades.
So when you published your first book, was there any fears of why you shouldn't do it, and what encouraged you to do it? Because there's so many people who want to write a book, but they've already have a list of excuses as why they shouldn't. So
Well, I think, there's the common fear, okay, no one's going to buy it, no one's going to read it. And, the majority of books, and I know that not to scare people away, but the majority of books don't sell more than 500 copies. And I don't know, maybe that stat's been updated, but when I published my first book, that was information that my publisher had shared with me. And it was like, okay, look, you're not necessarily going to be a billionaire from books, but then again, you could be, depending on what you're writing. Everyone has a story in them. They should get that story out. And even if you sell 10 copies of your books, 10 people are reading your book. That means you're impacting 10 people. They may tell people about it, and you may impact more about it. If you impact one person with what you wrote, then it's worth it. That's my firm belief. So get it out there. If you've got something out there, write it. Someone in this world needs it, maybe more than one person. It could be, even if it's just how to do certain things. People are looking for things like that. So your story has your own unique take on it. Don't be alarmed if you're writing a business book and going, okay, there's 10 million business books in my bookstore. Well, guess what? Yours is going to be 10 million and one. Get it out there. Someone will buy it, someone will read it, they will get fulfillment out of it, and you share your knowledge from your point of view, which is very unique. Only you have your point of view. No one else has it the same way. They may agree with you on everything, but your take on things, your experience, your background, everything you've done in your life goes into what you write. And you want to make sure you take advantage of that when you write your first book or several books.
well, so talk about your book, Burnout Proof. What inspired you to write it, and give us just a little bit about it.
Yeah, Burnout Proof came to light. Was actually the first book that I wanted to write, because I wrote another book, 369 Days, which chronicles my year of worst case scenarios of losing, my health and job and car and home and all of that. I started writing Burnout Proof before that. But then I thought, well, let's write my story. And then I went back to Burnout Proof several years later, after working with people and organizations on burnout and doing a lot more research. And I thought, okay, I need something out there to educate people on what burnout is, what are the signs that they can look out for, and what are some things they can do to stop burnout, because you can stop burnout quicker than you think. The bigger work is figuring out why you burned out in the first place. So I knew the book needed to go out there, and I actually was ready to release in the early spring of 2020, and then COVID-19 pandemic hit. And I thought, I'm going to wait on releasing this because no one can go to the bookstore to buy it anyway. I mean, yeah, you can order it online, but at that point, I don't think a lot of people were focusing on that. They were focusing on everything else that was going on in the world. And then as time went on, and I was observing what was going on with the pandemic, and working from home burnout was becoming such a big problem, I thought, my book isn't done. I need to add an additional chapter. So I added a chapter called COVID-19 in my book and talked about working from home and things you can do to basically establish boundaries on working from home and keeping your home, you're also your home. And it's been a challenge for a lot of people for sure, especially if they have children, they have to educate them as well. And, our dogs are wondering why we're still home, all of the nuances and challenges that a lot of people have been facing. But once I added that chapter, then I released it at the beginning of this year. And, the feedback on the book is quite amazing. And I'm quite thrilled that it came out at the right time. I think, releasing it when I did was the right time for the book to go out in the wild.
So one of the things I noticed that unless people research, which is rare, but 9 out of 10 people think publishing a book is easy and that they don't know what it takes. And so when you published your first book, what were some of the things you learned that you had no clue you were responsible for in the publishing of your book?
The marketing of it, for one. Just because you have a book and it's for sale at a bookstore or online doesn't mean people are going to discover it unless they happen to look for it, or if you pay advertising to have it promoted. There's obviously ways to do that, but learning about how to utilize the book for other purposes. And mine was, because I speak publicly around the globe, having a book definitely helps, because it gives me a talking point. You can obviously provide the books to the audience at the various events and whatnot, and having that book as a stepping stone to do other things, whether it's working with organizations, speaking at conferences, working with individuals, you name it. And it's been very beneficial on that, and it's a great way to generate different sources of income as well. Having the podcast show again helps promote the book when I do that, but also it gets me to communicate with other great thought leaders across the world on different things that they're doing. Again, it's all the people that say, and I've heard this, there's so many people that have a book in them, but they're just like, seems like a lot of work. It is, but if you work with a publisher, or even if you do something, self-publishing, there's so many different options and ways for you to get your content out there. You want to make sure that the content is good. Use an editor, okay? Writers and editors are two entirely different skill sets. You want to have a good editor. You want it easy to read, obviously, based on the information you're providing. And as far as covers and all that kind of good stuff, there's plenty of online sources to be able to do all of that. But this is something that you're creating and you're putting out in the world, and is going to be out there. So you want to make sure you put the time and effort into it to make it look good and something that you can be proud of.
Yeah. One of the things a lot of people, when they come to me asking for help for publishing their books, and I give them information, they always go, is there, a less expensive way to do such and such? And I always say there is, but you're not going to get the results you want. You got to spend that money.
Yeah, it's an investment. And I know a lot of people look at things, and this is a mindset shift for everybody, and entrepreneurs and everybody needs to do this. Too often we look at things as cost. Okay, it costs this. Okay, a gallon of milk costs this, or lunch meat costs this, or a loaf of bread costs this, or my new car costs this. When you are doing something for you or your business or your brand or anything you do, treat it as an investment instead of a cost. Publishing a book, yes, can cost considerable amount of money. There's a wide gamut of pricing, and you truly get what you pay for. Yes, you can go with somebody that is bargain cheap. You found them online. Yes, we'll do this and this, and we'll promote it on Amazon and blah, blah, blah. Great. Okay. But what else are they doing? with that, and the editing, the proofreading, the making sure it's the right width so you can have the book, the right size for changing if you want to publish it on Amazon. Their regulations and rules change constantly. From my first book to my third book, every time was completely different. I'm like, okay, well, what do they want now? So it's the game changes, and using a publisher and using somebody like your group to do the things that will help them do it. It takes the busy work out, because as a writer, focus on the writing, and then get the help on the promotion and getting it out there, and being able to move it, because if you try to do it all, it's going to be watered down and it won't be good. It just won't. If you want to put out a 40-page book or something, then just create a PDF and put it out there and be good with it. If you want a physical book that you want to see in bookstores or libraries and things like that, then definitely utilize a publishing service, because it will mean all the difference in the world. It stands out when you do that. So that's my recommendation. I have no regrets in doing what I've done.
Great. So are you in the process of working on another book, either mentally or physically?
There's some things bouncing around in my head. I don't have it, concrete like I did with Burnout Proof. I knew that, that one was going to be, coming, as it was in the to-do list forever, and I got tired of looking at it. I'm like, let me just write the dang book. So, but right now there's some things. I'm observer of life, so I anticipate that there's going to be a need for some potential coming out of this pandemic kind of stuff, as far as stress and talking with mental health professionals, like I do, because I have a big network of those individuals in my life. I'm personally very concerned about the post-traumatic stress of this pandemic. Going back to work and things opening back up and going wherever we want to go, yes, should feel normal. It's like, hey, we get to go back there again. But for some people, it's going to be pretty scary for them because of all that's happened in this last year and a bit, because things have changed, and there may have been some traumatic things that have happened during this pandemic. My dad died at the very beginning of the pandemic, and so that was going to that, dealing with all of that, and the world was literally shutting down while we were going through that situation, which made it pretty complex to navigate through all the things we needed to do. But and a lot of people have had to deal with job losses, loss of loved ones, moving. It's been a pretty traumatic period of time for many people, and coming out of it, if they haven't addressed that trauma, then that's going to linger with them for a period of time, and maybe for a long time unless they address it. So tossing around some ideas on that. I might end up doing something in collaboration with another thought leader or author on it. But I'm sure there's another one in there, because one of the things that and I know maybe some of your listeners recognize, is once you start writing and you publish a book, it ends up being okay, what's my next book? It's not a one and done thing. It's like, you know what, there's another one in there. And so you think that you have one book and you end up realizing you're writing a bunch. And you see all the authors that have written so many books. It's because once they do it, it's part of their DNA. They just can't stop writing, which is great, for the people that consume their books.
Yes, I actually, one of the last books I wrote, I was like, I think I'm good. I think I'm done. I don't have anything else in me. And now I have like 4 more books in me. And so it's it's only because just as long as you're living life, you'll see something that sparks an idea. So,
absolutely.
My last question, or request, I should say, can you give some encouraging words out there to anyone out there who has thought about starting a business, or thought about publishing a book, but they've already discounted everything? I can't because of this. I can't because of that. What advice can you give them from your own personal experience?
Yeah, for me, and of course, the investment in publishing a book, can be up there. And you look at that number and you're like, wow, that, that could be kind of high. Well, the thing of it is, your story is important. It needs to get out there. It's important for society to hear what you have to say. And the percentage of the global population that publishes a book is so small. So you'd be able to say, yeah, I'm one of the top 2% or 5% or whatever it happens to be. I forget what the stat is, that have a published book. And that is something that is so fulfilling. And you need to do it. And if it's a situation where finances are a challenge, you figure out, okay, how many days do I have to save up a certain dollar amount to get to that, and then figure it out. Make some adjustments. Okay, maybe buy a no-name brand of something instead of a name brand of something. Maybe skip a coffee once. I'm not telling people don't drink coffee. That could be dangerous for some people, but maybe not go to the coffee shop one day a week and maybe brew the coffee at the office or at home. Those things add up, and just put in a money jar and just put the money in there, or a separate savings account that you don't access easily. Just squirrel money away, and as you save things, put the money away. Like, for example, this is something that I did early on. When you buy something at a store, or a grocery store or something like that, oftentimes the receipt will say, you saved this. Well, take that amount and transfer it into that other account. It's like, okay, well, I saved $6.20. All right, transfer $6.20. If you go to the grocery store every week and you're saving $5 to $10, that could be $30, $40, $50 a month. That's $600 a year. Okay, look, and it's like, okay, you may not be able to publish your book this year. That's fine, but you start doing that and saving those little things, it will add up. Even with next to nothing interest rates right now, it will still grow to the point where you'll be able to say, wow, you know what, I actually have money in my savings right now to be able to pay and get my book published. And it's not going to hurt you out of your operating funds, your normal budget, because you've squirreled that money away for a period of time to do it. And once you do that and you pay for it and you physically hold that book the first time, you look at it and you're like, this came from here and here, and now it's here. There's no other feeling like that. It's amazing, and I really encourage people to do it. So get out there and write that book.
That is all the time we have for you today on The Ready Writer. I'd like to thank our guest, Michael Levitt, for stopping on by and sharing his story. And of course, you, the audience, for viewing. Have a great day. Have a great week.